Good, Johnny.
All right. Good morning and welcome to your Friday morning safety meeting. Today is Friday, August the 4th, 2023. My name is John Harden. I'm in our safety department. With me to my left is Mr. David White. He is also with the safety department. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. Wow.
Yeah.
My mic's a little hot.
I know.
But that's good.
Kind of got an empty room over here, so.
Got some empty seats, but we also got a number of people in the cafeteria, Johnny. Looks like they're lined up, so I think we're going to get it filled up a little bit this morning. So
I think so too. So welcome everybody. We're glad that you're here or in Pittston or Salt Lake City, or if you're listening out on the road, we appreciate that as well. Or listening later on when you get stopped. This is going to be broadcast on Prime's Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube channels, so you can go back and you can watch any meeting that you would like on any one of those platforms. So we encourage you to do that. We always encourage everybody to try to get involved, try to listen in to what's going on up here. We're going to have a lot of great speakers this morning, as we do every week. Hopefully it's informative, and hopefully you guys appreciate what they talk about. So, first of all, let's do a big round of applause for John Blancett and his crew here in Springfield for feeding us all breakfast, as well as the folks for Pittston and Salt Lake City as well that are out there cooking breakfast for everybody. So, with that being said, let's go out east first. Let's talk to Rick. Rick, are you out there?
Hey, good morning. We're up here with half a dozen of our closest friends.
Well, good morning. We're glad they're with you.
Hey, we're glad they're with us also. It was a great week in orientation this week, and we got some guys down at the pad. They're working on getting their CDLs and working on those pre-trips.
Outstanding. So what's going on up in Pittston this week? You guys got 100-degree weather up there like we've been seeing down here?
We have not had 100-degree weather. We're looking in the low 80s, 70s, high 70s. It's been a really nice week as far as weather-wise. No rain, except for maybe 1 or 2 days, but not too bad.
Well, it's a little cooler today, I think, but we've got some 100-degree weather you're more than welcome to have, because we're done with it, I think. So.
Well, hey, save a couple of those days, and I'll be down on the end of the month, and maybe I'll enjoy them then. That's
perfect. So anything else going on up there in Pittston this week?
Not this week, but I think next Friday we got a little dinner coming up, a Million Mile and 10-year dinner.
And you get a picnic too, don't you, Ricky?
Oh, you're right. That is right. On Saturday is our company picnic. Yes, enjoy the kids and some bingo and other games and some slides and stuff like that. So yeah, great time.
Now, do you call the bingo numbers up there?
I did for a year or so, but I haven't done it lately. I work on Saturdays, so it's kind of hard to call bingo.
That's true, and we appreciate that, Rick. We really do down here in Springfield. So,
absolutely. So Rick, I know you don't have very many folks with you up there, but if anybody has a question, comment, concern, anything throughout the meeting, make sure you get a mic in front of them, and we'd love to hear from you guys this morning.
Hey, you got their attention. They're waiting on you guys. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Well, let's go out west to Salt Lake City. I believe we have Mr. Aaron Ward out there this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
We're doing great. How are things in Salt Lake City?
That's great out in Salt Lake. We're about 20 degrees cooler than we were this time last week, so that's much appreciated. We got a little bit of rain this week, which is always a good thing in the desert. And we've got a good group came through orientation this week, and then they're out on the training pad, some of them, and some of them are out on the road starting their training for CDL.
Outstanding. Looks like we've got a pretty good week here too, so we're going to get to that here in just a minute. So what else do you have going on out there this week in Salt Lake City?
We continue to move closer to time for the Million Mile dinner and our picnic. That's going to be August 25th for the Million Mile dinner and 10-year dinner combined. And then the next day, the 26th, will be our picnic.
Outstanding. Well, same thing as we told Rick this morning. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, please get a microphone in front of them. We'd love to hear from some of our outside terminals, especially later on. We're going to have a very good discussion. Some sales coordinators, fleet managers up here, so should be pretty interesting. So we appreciate it, Aaron.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's come back here to Springfield, Missouri. We'll kind of lean our mics towards this side of the room since it's a little heavy. Good
All
morning.
right.
Thank you, Dee. Good morning. So first of all, we talked about orientation, both sides out there. So I see some yellow vests here. So, first thing we like to do, if this is your first week at Prime, whether you're coming in as a PSD student, you're coming in with your CDL, if this is your first Friday morning safety meeting, go ahead and stand up. Let us recognize you. Let us welcome you to the Prime family.
All right.
Good deal. We got a great group.
We do, no doubt.
Hopefully there's a lot of people that stood up there as well. So, one thing that we like to mention, Prime's a little bit different trucking company than some of the others. And, if you're just getting into it, you don't have anything else to compare it to. So, if you have been somewhere before, we're very transparent. These badges that you wear, the cards that you have will get you into any door here in the terminal. When you're here in the terminal, we really encourage you to come in, meet your fleet manager, say hi to your fleet manager, your payroll associate, your road assist associate. You can come by and say hi to Dave and I and Dennis in the safety department. Make yourself at home here. Your family now. We appreciate that you're here. We think you made a great decision choosing Prime, and we're here to answer any questions you have, anything that you need. If we can't answer it, somebody here can. So feel free to come in, make yourselves at home. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just a couple other items. Hopefully you've done your background on us before you came here. Hopefully it gets a lot of time and your money too being invested into your future of your career. But and if you did, hopefully you found too. And I think if you're here, you did find this, that we are a solid company for training, no doubt. You're going to get the best training at any company right here. And get hands-on, real-world experience out with a certified trainer. And here at Prime, we got our policy is this: do your best, do what's right, and treat others the way you want to be treated. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. We don't have a policy manual or procedures we go by about, if this happens and we do it. Now, those are the three right there. If you follow those three, do your best, do what's right, and treat others the way you want to be treated, you'll be fine here. It is a tough career. It is a very rewarding career, but a lot of learning you're going to come across, driving a truck, turning, backing. All we ask, keep a positive attitude. Positive attitude, you will learn quicker than a negative attitude. Listen to your trainer and just open up, man. If you got questions, ask, and take your time. And it is different out there working. You may be working eventually down the road. You may be driving a night shift or so, and trying to adjust your clock so you're awake and you're ready to roll, and you sleep during the day a little bit to get some sleep in, and then you're ready to roll at night. That's going to be asked of you down the road, not right away, but down the road. So be aware of that. And hey, that's about trucking. Trucking's 24/7, 365, and that's what our customers expect out of us, and that's what they pay us for. And in return, we need to do that on time, pick up on time, deliver on time, and do it safely. All three of those need to meet, and we'll be okay in the end of the day. So, but welcome. Great to have you. Got a number. We've increased the size in here, John, from the last couple of weeks, our new folks. So great to see them. Big shout out to all those out there on the road driving for us, running down and running all that freight, doing it safely. Our safety numbers have improved the last few weeks, and hopefully we keep going. That's what this is about. Safety is number one, and it's the highest calling here at Prime. And just want you to, be safe out on the roads, and watch out for those four-wheelers and those other vehicles out there on the highway, because there's some people, and I saw it this morning just coming in, that are not paying attention. And so just be aware of that and stay away from them. That's all I can tell you. So your safety is number one. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into some safety numbers. I believe, did you do the inspection?
I did not. Bill Sprague did the inspection. So the way the inspections go, every week, Dennis Davis, our safety director, and by the way, Dennis is here today. He's off to the side. He's itching to get a mic. I think he may have a mic in his hand. No, he doesn't. The mic's on the table. That's a good thing. No, but no, every week Dennis looks at all the inspections, goes through them all. Anything stands out, he may take action on one or two of them. It just depends. And after that, he sends them over to us. Our safety supervisors, it's myself, Rick Iffert, John Harden, or Bill Sprague, and we sign off on them, and then we'll go through and we'll look. If we get a violation, we'll look at the history of the driver. Maybe you need PSC, maybe you need a route, and we need to sit down and talk to you about it. It just depends on the level of severity it is and your overall record too. And then we got to sign those. The violation ones, we got to sign those and send them back to the states. And the clean ones, of course, you get paid on. So you got to make sure you got to turn in every inspection. If you don't, the states will let us know. And usually it's not very nice letters we get from them. They're like, this driver we didn't receive an inspection back that was signed, and you need to get it from the driver. So make sure you turn all those in, because it will catch up to you. So you can't hide much anymore in this world. So with cameras and electronics and all the stuff that I really don't like, but you know, I'm old school, Johnny, you know me. So technology is not my gear, so to speak. But anyway, we got learning and keep getting better moving forward. But anyway, this past week we had 147 inspections, John. 90 of those were clean, so a 61% clean rate. So not a bad number. Let's keep getting better on those. You know, we've been up around the 70s earlier this year, so I think we will bounce back. It's kind of a trend. We go down a couple of weeks when we bounce back up. So. But we do a very good job on those. So what was some of our violations, John? Did you see anything?
I did not. I was hoping that you did.
Yeah. Well, a couple I know Bill mentioned to me real quick, you know, make sure that your truck is clean when you're going through an inspection. You pull into that scale, they see a lot of paperwork up in the windshield, truck's dirty, things like that. That all makes a difference, especially if you've got damage done to your truck. Now, granted, somebody hits your truck, you got to get it here to the shop or something. Understand that 100%. But if you've been running out there and you got some damage, prior damage, something happened, you hit a deer or whatever, make sure you try to get it fixed, because that will influence if that officer wants to do an inspection on you or not. So, and just keeping it clean and being professional out on the highway. So that's the end of the day. That's what can make or break it. Now we come across the video. I think that was last week. I was gonna have Brianne play that. Some states have kind of advanced on their use of technology for inspections, and North Carolina is one of them. They've begun using AI technology, which is artificial intelligence, for DOT inspection. So we're going to show this real quick here and we'll talk about it.
Patrol is using a new method to stop distracted commercial truck drivers, and this involves artificial intelligence. But some of the big rig drivers believe this new equipment just goes too far because it looks directly into the cabs of their trucks. Since the start of 2022, North Carolina state troopers say there have been more than 150 deadly crashes involving 18-wheelers.
Dave Faraday found out how this new equipment works and where it's being used in the state.
Well, the equipment is portable and is being moved around to different parts of the state. It allows the highway patrol to look down into the cab of a commercial truck to see whether or not the driver is holding a cell phone or not wearing a seatbelt. Highway patrol pulled over one 18-wheeler after another today along Interstate 40 in Burke County. Each truck had passed under the new AccuSensus equipment miles away in Hickory. There are 4 cameras here taking photos of the trucks, their license tags, and inside the cabs, looking for distracted drivers.
They know what the rules are. They know what the regulations say. And ones that are rolling the dice and not putting their phones down and not looking at the road, they're really putting themselves and other people in danger by doing that.
State troopers say artificial intelligence identifies whether the commercial truck driver is holding a cell phone or not wearing a seatbelt and relays a series of photos to state troopers. Drivers are quickly identified, pulled over, and can be cited and face fines up to $100. The state has purchased 3 portable units through a federal grant for nearly $500,000. We spoke with truck drivers today who were not pulled over and got a mixed reaction.
We are here working hard, to make everything go. And for them to do that, it's kind of cheating.
The blink of an eye is how it could happen. And no one really realizes how much stopping distance these trucks need.
State troopers say they also do inspections during those traffic stops, but they say their goal here is to make the road safer for everyone. Reporting from Catawba County, I'm Dave Faraday.
All right, so you see what's coming. North Carolina started it. I think you're going to see more states getting on board too. Hopefully, Missouri passed this law earlier this month about cell phone use for all vehicles. End of the month, come the end of August, it goes into effect where you cannot be on your cell phone at all, no matter what you're driving, which I appreciate that. I like it when it affects all vehicles, because that's what it is. It's about sharing the road out there. It's about sharing the road. Last night I was going home and I saw a guy behind me on his motorcycle on his cell phone talking. I actually had it held up to his ear. I was like, really? That's distracted driving right there. You know what I mean? So if motorcycles do it, car drivers do it more and more. I think commercial vehicle drivers, most of us don't do it because the regulations. And if you do, situations like this, you're going to get dinged. And John, what do we do with the drivers that get inspections with cell phone violations?
So if we get a cell phone violation, whether it's a citation or a warning, we don't distinguish between the two because we get the CSA points regardless. First offense, we come in, we take PSC class, sit down with Bill, Dave, myself, or Rick in Pennsylvania. If we get a second offense, it's an automatic safety disqualification. So it's just not safe, as everybody know, to be distracted driving a commercial motor vehicle. Well, we've shown another vehicle or another video a few weeks ago. It was very eye-opening, very emotional. It's just not worth the risk. So
that is true. And one thing, I went back and looked on this regulation in North Carolina. It is still up to the officer's discretion if he's going to write a ticket, write an inspection, or give a verbal warning. So I think some of them may be given verbal warning, just a heads up, hey, don't do it. But it is an easy inspection for them to write and a citation. And nobody likes to be paying citations. That money, you guys work too hard for your money. We all do. And to give it to a state for something like that. And, just a reminder, on cell phones, you can't be touching them at all in your cab. If it falls down off your dash, if you pick it up, you're in violation. You can't touch it. Now, you can't answer your call, one touch button if you have a headset, that's fine. But we ask you to limit those conversations because distracted driving is an issue out there on the highways. So if you got your fleet manager calling, he needs to talk to you real quick, that's fine. Make that conversation short. If you got your son, daughter, or wife wanting to talk to you and maybe do a little complaining, or maybe just say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, I love you. That's great, but let's pull it off. Let's get her to a safe location. Let's get to a truck stop, a rest area, then have those long-winded conversations. That's awesome because you need those calls too as well. But there's a place and time to do that. So anything else you want to add?
no, just, here recently, the last few weeks, kind of our biggest violations have still continued to be speeding, fail to obey sign. So anything that has to do with the sign, which includes bypassing a scale, point of entry, brake check, anything along those lines. So make sure you're paying attention to the signage out there on the road, watching your drive-wise. Make sure we don't want to miss any of those because those are big CSA offenses too under the unsafe driving.
And one last heads up, August 20th through the 26th is Brake Safety Week through CVSA. So if you're out there running down the road that week there, 20th through the 26th of this month, be expecting to get pulled in maybe a little bit more, get your brakes checked because that's the program they're throwing out there. And so more scales will be open and more checking will be going on your brakes. So just be prepared, make sure those brakes are in alignment. If you're running through the shop, make sure they check them, just make sure everything looks good and they're all at adjustment and you don't have any issues with them. So I think we got a full list of speakers today, man. We've been yakking, so we probably should get moving on.
We have a lot of anxious folks over there. So let's start off, let's just follow up with these yellow vests that we're seeing. Let's bring Mr. Chris Martin up here to talk about our trainees. Good morning, Chris.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning. How are you doing, Tammy? All right. My name's Chris Martin. I work in the training department. Specifically, I work in the TNT side of it, and I work in the refrigerated division. I want to talk to you about a few things today having to do with the training program. Like I said, I'm in refrigerated, but what I talk about, it will apply to flatbed and tanker as well, okay? So let's just start with a few numbers. In the refrigerated division, we have about 1,000 teams out there right now, okay? And of those 1,000 teams, roughly 550 of those have a trainee on the truck. Okay, so a B or a C seats somebody learning how to drive a truck so they can get their own truck. The average weekly earnings of the lead seat on a team truck, and this is in the lease division, right now is a little bit over $3,000 a week. Okay, so that's an average from the start of the year till now. And that number, it stays a little over $3,000. Outside of a holiday, it's a little over $3,000 a week for the lead seat on a team truck if you're leasing in the refrigerated division. I want to talk a little bit, I think everybody kind of understands how our training program works, but just review real quick. our program, it's split into two parts, all right? So we've got the PSD part of it and we got the TNT part of it, right? So PSD part, let's start with that. Most of the folks that come into Prime and they want to learn to be a driver, they come in with just a permit. They've got a permit from their home state and they come to one of our terminals, and the goal there is to pass the test, okay? They want to pass their CDL test. All right, and we're gonna, in that phase, we're gonna introduce them to some concepts, okay? It's a short process, it's usually less than a month, okay? That's the PSD part of it. So I passed my CDL test, and now I move on to the next phase. The next phase is called TNT, okay, and that's where I'm at, the TNT part of the process. Okay, so TNT, that's where I'm getting out and I'm running all the miles, okay? In the refrigerated division, it's 50,000 miles. With a trainer, safe miles. If I meet that mileage requirement and I do it safely, then I can apply to get my own truck, okay? So we've got PSD with a permit, and we've got then we've got the TNT phase where we run all the miles, okay? So let's start with TNT, and let's start with what does it take to be a TNT trainer? Because that's really who I'm kind of speaking to today, is all the folks that are trainers, instructors, or that we would like to be trainers or instructors. So to be a TNT trainer, the requirements, okay, so I've got to have a license for 6 months. I had to have had a license for 6 months, 60 days as a lead seat on a truck. And then we're also going to look at that person's service, their safety, their logs, and their fuel, okay? If you have questions about whether you qualify in those areas, I want you to get with your fleet manager and ask them, hey, how do I look? Am I qualified to train? What do I need to get better at? Okay. If you meet those requirements and you want to be a trainer, a TNT trainer, the class for that is 1 day. It's 1 day class. Okay. So we're not going to keep you here all week. It's a 1 day class. And then the next morning you get your truck inspected. Okay. So that's a TNT trainer. Now, where we really are trying to focus on right now, and we have been for a while, but I think we're really gonna step it up here in the coming weeks. We really want to focus on getting folks to participate in the first part of the process as a PSD instructor. Okay, that's where we feel like we could be doing a lot better. Your fleet manager may be calling you here soon and asking you to be a PSD instructor. If they do, that's a good thing. They think you're doing a good job and they want more drivers just like you. Okay, but you may get a call from your fleet manager to be a PSD instructor. So let's talk a little bit about what does it take to be a PSD instructor, okay? If I'm going to do that first part. And really the only difference between that and a TNT trainer in terms of requirements is that you have to have had a CDL for 2 years, okay? So to be a TNT trainer, it's 6 months. To be a PSD instructor, it's 2 years, okay? So for you folks that have had a CDL for 2 years and could be a PSD instructor, I mean, I'm really kind of aiming this next part at you. Let's talk about the benefits of being a PSD instructor, okay? So every Tuesday I go down to class and I talk to the new trainers and instructors. And usually what I'll do, I'll try to find somebody in class that's been a PSD instructor before. Okay, so maybe they're recertifying, or they got away from doing instructing and they were just doing the TNT part, and now they're going to come back and instruct again. And I asked them to tell the class, why are you coming back to be an instructor? Why was it easier? Why was it better to be an instructor? Okay, and I let them kind of tell the story to the rest of the class. And really what it comes down to is just that if I take someone through the whole process, if I do the PSD with them and I do the TNT, then it's so much easier, it's so much smoother, it's more profitable, it's better for both people involved, the trainer and the trainee, okay? Just specifically some reasons that I get, you know, one is just, I know who I've got on my truck when I start that TNT phase, right? I mean, we've already established communication, a relationship, they're comfortable asking me questions. I've earned their trust. You know, we can run team freight sooner. So if I take somebody through the PSD phase, then when I hit TNT, we can start running team freight sooner. I've worked with this person before. I took them out over the road during PSD and we built up some stamina. You know, if I'm a TNT trainer and I know at some point in this process, for most of the process, I'm going to be asleep when they're driving. As we get further into the process, man, it makes me feel a whole lot better if I know that this person driving the truck, man, I know them from the beginning. Everything that they learn from me. Okay. You know, and another big part of this is when you start with a new trainee, whether you start with them in TNT or you start with them in PSD, we're going to ask you to give them one-on-one training. Okay. And if we're one-on-one with them and we're both running our clocks or log hours, right? We pretty much got to run solo freight at the start. Okay. Whether we're starting PSD or TNT. And, you know, here's the thing. If I do that one-on-one time in the TNT phase, I'm running solo. If I do it in TNT, I'm paying that other person. I'm paying their wages while I do that, while I run one-on-one with them. If I do it in the PSD phase instead, then while I'm running solo with them, I'm not having to pay their wages. And in fact, I'm getting paid extra money every week by Prime. So that's a big turnaround in money right there. Okay. So I think that's a big deal. I just want to go over a few more points because I think, you know, we work hard to get the information out there and make sure it's the right information, but maybe we miss some things, or people read it and they read it wrong, or you hear something from somebody and it's not the right information. So I want to just go over a few points. If you're taking the classes, PSD, TNT, it's at any terminal, okay? It's Salt Lake, Pittston, and Springfield. We do it at all 3 terminals. If you're going to be a PSD instructor, again, it's 2 days. 2 days to be a PSD instructor is the training. We said 1 day for TNT, it's 2 days for PSD. I take class Tuesday and Wednesday. I get inspected Thursday morning. Okay. I think it's a little shorter even up in Salt Lake and Pittston. Okay. But it's a short class. You're not going to be there all week. More than 70% of the people that take their CDL test pass on the first try. Okay. And I think that's important because people worry, you know, and if I bring my student back and they don't pass and I got to bring them back again and bring them back again. More than 70% of our folks that take the test right now are passing on the first try. Okay. Only thing that would make that better maybe is if we could just make the test easier, right? But that's what's happening. So we're getting rid of the alley dock is going away. So the alley dock is not going to be a part of the CDL test. Okay. So that makes it even better. No alley dock. And then the last thing, and again, I'm really focusing this on, again, the PSD, but now I'm going to hit on be even a little more specific, the lease drivers. So if you're a lease driver that can be a PSD instructor, okay? Because I think our company folks are really carrying the load on this PSD process, and where we need the help is from our lease folks. If you're a lease driver and you're going to be a PSD instructor, while you have the student on your truck, $400 a week, okay? $400 a week. When they pass their test, $1,100 to $1,475. It's somewhere in that range. If they pass on the first try, it's $1,475. Okay. No matter how many tries it takes, if they pass their test, you get $1,100. That's on the next check. If you help someone pass their test and they're still at Prime 6 months later, $300. If they're still at Prime a year later, another $300. When they get their own truck someday, $500. Okay. So, I mean, there's some money there. That's great. Bigger deal. Man, it really sets you up for TNT, okay? So again, my name's Chris Martin. If you have any questions, just ask your fleet manager, ask for the TNT guy. I sit upstairs in the Z building. I'm going to stick around after the meeting in case somebody's got questions. I'll just hang out over here. Are there any questions right now?
All right.
Okay.
Chris, we appreciate it. Yep. And Chris will be around if you do have a question that comes up. And
give him a round of applause. Yeah, good job, Chris. Thank you. Hey, John, you know what I was thinking? He said that the alley dock's going to be taken away, so maybe Dennis can get his CDL.
Maybe. Dennis uses the goal method when he parks every morning. So.
With his car, yeah. He does. Yeah. That's good.
So, hey, one thing, you know, we got a lot of yellow vests here in Pittston and Salt Lake City. It's never too early to think about what Chris was just talking about and being a trainer down the road. You know, you heard all the residual income that comes along with that. And you can take your experience here at Prime, getting your CDL, and you can be thinking about how can I modify this and how can I change somebody's life whenever I'm eligible to become a trainer. So never too soon to start thinking about that.
That is true. Yep. There's different avenues of making money around here. And not only that, just passing on your experience to somebody else. It's more than money, so go ahead. Let's get our next speaker
All right.
up here.
We took Bill's microphone away earlier, so we're going to give him one back here. So
Go ahead.
we're going to bring up Bill Banning, our head of our security department. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I don't know if anybody heard this week, but there was a driver that was basically kidnapped up in Ohio. I don't know if anybody heard about that. He was stopped at a truck stop, and the police were chasing a couple. They abandoned their vehicle. They run into the truck stop. They jump in the truck and take off with a guy, and they eventually get him stopped, and the bad guys get arrested, and the truck driver was okay. But it led me to believe, how did they get into the truck was my big question. He parked somewhere. So I read the article, and it says right in the article, it was an unlocked tractor. So they asked me to come up today and speak about driver safety. So when I thought about this, I said, man, it seems like so simple. If you're in your truck, lock your doors. If you're traveling down the roadway, you got to have your doors locked at all times. Why wouldn't you do it if you're parked? So I wanted to touch on a few more things. First off, if you're going to stop someplace, think about where you're going to stop. Locations are important. If you're driving down, say you're going towards Memphis, do you really want to stop in Memphis for the night? Or do you want to stop 60 miles north or 60 miles south of Memphis? Probably the 60 miles north or 60 miles south. You don't want to stop in the middle of Memphis. If you stop in Memphis, you got a better chance of getting your truck broken into, your trailer broken into. Guys, thieves they like to operate in the areas that they know. And they're very lazy. Thieves are lazy. They're going to take the easiest target, and they're going to break into the trailer that doesn't have a lock on it. And the driver is going to leave the doors open, and you're just going to have all other kinds of problems. So stop outside of there. Secondly, if you're going to stop, don't park in the back row of a truck stop. The back rows are notorious for having the highest rate of theft of anywhere in a truck stop. Try to park underneath the light. Try to park at the front of it. I know it's not always able to do it, but think about where you're going to stop at. Then if you've got to get out of your truck, and you got to go up to the store or wherever you're going to go to, do not walk between trailers. Think about this. If you're walking between a trailer and somebody approaches you from one side, you either got to get real close to that person and pass them, right? Or you got to try to turn around and head back out the other way. Don't walk between trailers. Walk in the middle of the roadways. Walk around the rows. And if you're going to walk, think about how you're going to walk. Walk with your head up. Don't walk with your facing the ground. Don't be on your cell phone while you're walking. You can't pay attention to what's around you if you're on your cell phone while you're walking someplace. Truck stops are not a good place. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens at them, and you've got to take care of yourselves. Now, the question I always get asked is, what can we carry for personal protection? That's the number one question I always get asked. What can we carry? So here's what I'm going to tell you. If it was me, I'd buy me one of those flashlights. Looks like just a regular flashlight, but on one end of it is a little taser. These things are great. You can put them in a little strap pouch on your side. Everybody thinks it's just a flashlight, but man, if you're walking someplace, take it out, flip it around, turn your taser on. If somebody approaches you don't like or gets too close to you, you can zap them. And trust me, it hurts. So that's what I would get. Now, the other question I always get is, why can we not carry a firearm? Everybody wants to carry a gun out there, right? Here's the simple answer. If you're working coast to coast, there are a lot of states out there that will not allow you to carry a weapon on your truck. Even if you've got a firearm license and you've got, say, out of the state of Missouri, and you can go to about 25 to 30 different states out there with no problems whatsoever, but you still got the other states like Illinois, California, New York, New Jersey, Minnesota. All these states will not allow you to carry a firearm within their state. So if you get stopped, and unfortunately you're in a commercial vehicle which is subject to search at any time. You don't have to have a search warrant. They can just go in there and search your truck. If you get caught with a weapon, you're going to get arrested. So is it really worth it for that? So that's the few things that I have. Anybody got any questions?
Sure. What about knives that you keep on, like a kitchen knife, pocket knife, or those?
Pocket knives are great as long as they're 4 inches or less. Most states are not going to worry about that. Now, if you're going to have something like in a sheath, you can usually carry it in a sheath as long as it's exposed. Just don't keep it concealed. But yeah, it's the concealable thing that will get you in more trouble. That's a kitchen knife to cut your steak. You're exactly right, right there.
It's just like that long.
It's a kitchen knife to cut your steak. Remember what it's there for. Okay, it'd be like carrying a baseball bat around outside. Is it a baseball bat or is it a tire thumper? It's a tire thumper. Okay? Any other questions?
It may be a fact that it identifies as a tire thumper.
All right.
There you
Good
go.
job, Bill. And that driver, Bill, just to confirm, that was not a prime driver. That was kidnapped, right?
Yeah, I believe it might, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was not a problem.
Yeah, it wasn't a prime. Yeah. So good deal. I just wanted to clarify that. So what do you got next, John? We got all these chairs up here. Something big is going to happen.
I know, we might as well put them to use. So we're gonna do something a little different this morning. We're gonna bring up some folks from our sales department, dispatch, as well as carrier and Thermo King. So guys, go ahead and come up and we'll do a proper introduction here.
Yeah, grab a mic. Jared. Grab a mic.
All right, so while they're all sitting down, I'll kind of go into what we're getting ready to do here. So we've had some discussions here recently regarding cargo claims, regarding, temperatures outside, our reefer units out there. So, this is primarily going to apply to our refrigerated side, but there will be bits and pieces that our flatbed tanker and intermodal can pull from as well. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail, especially it's great. We've got a lot of new drivers here. We're going to kind of walk through the process from start to finish as far as when you get a dispatch to when you show up at the shipper. So, first and foremost, let's go through, tell us your name, who you're with, and how long you've been working with or for Prime.
My name's Philip Guller. I'm the on-site Thermo King rep. I've been here at Prime about 3 years, been in the industry pretty much all my life.
I'm Danny Hauser. I've been here 17 years. I handle sales off of the West Coast.
My name is Andy Bell. I'm the on-site carrier rep. I've been on-site with Prime for 16 years now.
My name is Jonathan Grice. I'm a Reefer fleet manager. Been here for 15 years now.
Jared Young, Reefer fleet manager. Been here for just under 18 years.
All right, perfect. So we've got a lot of knowledge up here, a lot of folks that have been here for a long time. So, before we get into this really, there's going to be questions. We really want questions, but we want the questions to be beneficial to everybody. We want to try to stay away from the quote unquote war stories, the one-offs, where maybe you had a situation come up that, doesn't normally happen, because those happen all the time, every day. We want to try to stay on track, get as much good information out to everybody as possible. So, first and foremost, let's just start out. We'll start over here at the dispatch side, and Danny can hop in as well from the sales perspective. So, if I'm out in my truck and I get a dispatch that comes across my Qualcomm, the first thing I want to do, we want to start the trip plan. We want to start to figure out what we're doing. So how do I know if that load is a live load or if that load is on a preloaded trailer, so I know how I'm getting ready to start my trip?
I'll go ahead and start that. Whenever you guys get a load dispatched over to you, it'll have 3 different options. It'll say A, Y, or N. The A stands for anytime drop and hook. Y stands for drop and hook as well, but it sometimes has specific windows. And then N is a live appointment regardless of pickup or delivery. And then there are also, you can tell by the appointment windows, if it's 0001 to 2359, that's a drop and hook generally. If it has a firm appointment on both sides of it, then that's also an indicator it's a live load or unload.
Okay, so at the time of dispatch, we have certain loads that we do a verbal live dispatch over the phone with our drivers. So that message will also come out to the driver on the Qualcomm, correct? So whenever they see that message come across, what needs to happen next?
Well, that's when we're looking for that driver to pick up the phone and give us a call so we can go through all of the live dispatch details for that specific customer. Each customer, whether it's a meat load or a pharmaceutical load, they're all going to have very specific things that we need to cover with the driver to make sure that they show up with all the pre-arrival things that need to be done, whether that's getting a washout receipt, making sure the trailer's pre-cooled, all those things are all covered in that live dispatch that happens prior to showing up to the shipper.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about a little bit about, GPS. We've talked about technology earlier. A lot of folks probably just plug in a direction on their GPS and head there. Talk a little bit about the importance, and Danny, hop in here as well, because I believe that your side updates these, but the Macro 19 directions, instructions, specific to each customer. So I don't know who wants to start on that. But.
I'll start on that one. Well, the GPS is a great tool, but it should be a secondary tool to the items that we're providing. And so when you get your load information, you do your live dispatch with your fleet manager, you pull your macros. And so you want to pull those directions for the shipper and the receiver and read them. Make sure you're going through all that information. Don't skip right to the address and punch it into your GPS. All the local information that you need for that pickup, whether they have overnight parking, what their hours are, if there are going to be warnings, if they tend to ticket drivers who park on the street in front of those places, all that stuff's going to be listed in that Macro 19. And if you skip over that and go straight to a GPS, you'll never get that information.
I'd like to add one more thing to that too. All of those directions and specific instructions that we have out there, it's a collaboration. Some of that data might be a little old, might need some updates. You guys might have a tip or something that you can share, and we can always add that with your feedback. It's always welcome.
So anything you see when you pull up that Macro 19, if something doesn't match or if something has changed, construction, anything at all like that, relay that to your fleet manager, and the fleet manager will communicate that back to Danny or the salesperson that's involved directly with that load.
It can be something simple. We had one earlier this week where we were delivering a load for our Sprouts customer, grocery chain, and our guy showed up to deliver and couldn't find the right door. Come to find out that, the sign on the building doesn't say Sprouts. It says Penske. It's just that's their logistics company. So, the next guy who goes in there is going to know, look for the Penske building, because we got that feedback and got it all updated.
Perfect.
And one more thing, and most of the time in those Mac 19 notes, it'll tell you if they have parking or not, which obviously is very important for you guys to know.
Perfect. So if I've got a preloaded trailer at a shipper, I've got an open window, like you said, what do I need to do with my trailer before I drop it in there? From a customer's perspective, from a fleet manager, and from another driver that might go in and get that trailer after I drop it off.
Well, first and foremost, anytime you go into a shipper, you need to make sure you do a pre-trip on that trailer, make sure there's no damages to it, make sure the trailer chutes in good working order. Doesn't have any odors. Obviously, we don't want any insulation showing anything like that, because it's very, very difficult, obviously, for the next driver, but more importantly for yourself, that we could always get rejected to load or anything that could come across like that.
And top off with fuel, right? Because Danny, your customers are going to require that we have a minimal 3/4 tank of fuel, I'm assuming, but just go ahead and top it off if you're taking something in there. Would that be what you recommend?
Yeah, when they're loading the trailer, they're not sure exactly when we're going to pick it up, especially if it's one of those anytime drop and hook. So we need to make sure we're setting the trailers down, ready to go, for the next person in case they are delayed getting in there, and walk that chute. If there's popped rivets, we need to take care of it. That's probably the biggest complaint that we're getting is, my chute's hanging down. I'm rejecting this. And now we've got to start working on road calls or shuttles or finding somebody who's, willing to go in there and take care of it themselves. And it's just another, piece of it that, it takes away an advantage that we may have.
All right, perfect. So Jonathan, you mentioned odors in the trailer. That's our next step in the process here. So we're going to talk about washouts, and Andy and Philip, we're going to kind of lean on you here a little bit. But first and foremost, I will mention that there are a lot of times in the Macro 19 where the directions are specific instructions. It might have a closest washout to that facility listed right there conveniently for you. So make sure you check that. So how do I get rid of trailer odor? If I've got a trailer and I've got an odor in there, before I take this and drop it off, what's the best way to get rid of that odor?
Honestly, it's coffee grounds, believe it or not, guys. This is the best thing you can do to get rid of odors. Just doesn't matter what brand. Try to do the cheapest one, because obviously you're not going to be drinking it. So, but yeah, you can just, if you spread coffee grounds throughout that trailer, it will take out. It takes a while, but it will get rid of a lot of the odors that way.
All right, perfect.
And then the next step would be, making sure it's clean. They brought that up. we want to make sure that trailer is nice and dry as well. So fuel hog, fresh. Of course, you want the temperature. I think the default's is it 55? Yes, 55 degrees. So you want to be sure and dry that trailer out because prevent mold and mildew and odors as well.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
How do we dry it out?
Yeah, and I'll add one to that. On the carrier units, we actually have a dry out. It remove moisture dry out IntelliSet that you can actually select. The one thing that I'll really touch on this one, guys, where you are in the country, the humidity level, all that kind of stuff will make a difference on how long it takes it to dry it out. So if you're down in Florida and it's 95, 100% humidity, it's going to take longer to dry it out than if you're up north somewhere. Okay, but keep that in mind, how long it takes to dry one out. Okay.
I believe also that the company store sells a can of deodorizer that you can actually set off.
He's saying company store sells a deodorizer you can put in the trailer. Does that work pretty well too, Andy and Phil?
That is a good question. I didn't even realize they sold that.
Yeah,
So
I didn't either.
So
Yeah, I think the company store has, it's kind of like those bug spray. You pull the trigger, toss it into the trailer, close the doors. Takes like 20 minutes.
I'll have to check into that. I didn't realize they sold one of those. That's cool.
Yeah,
I'll have to-
and going back to the pickup, what do you call it? The yes, no. I've been getting a lot of those lately that say it's a drop and hook or it's a live load, and the information's totally wrong.
I think a lot of that's going to be impacted by trailer pools and how fast we're getting trailers in there. If we get trailers into shippers and make sure that we don't bobtail into places that are supposed to be able to have trailers to preload, if we provide them with good, clean operating trailers in the numbers that we're supposed to, they're generally going to have those preloads done.
We're also gonna, err on the side of caution. If we have, 10 loads coming out and 5 drop trailers there, we want to make sure that we're not setting the wrong expectation and that we're there when we need to. But again, feedback, it's a collaboration here. So if something's wrong, we need to know about it so we can make it right for the next person.
All right, perfect. Great question and great point. We got another question over here.
All right, so to go back to the macro 19, I think it's very important to also state on your dispatch, whenever you're actually in the Prime app, you can actually go and click on the actual satellite view of the actual customer. So you can see where the truck entrances are. You can see where you can go in a semi truck. That way we're not turning into where cars can go or anything like that. Just another safety thing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know that. It's been a while since
We're learning stuff today too.
So, okay. So now we've talked about drying out the trailer. We've got our washout. And let's say, Danny here's on the West Coast. So a lot of produce obviously out there. So Andy and Philip, how long is it going to take for my trailer to cool down? And keep in mind, Andy's already kind of sent out a disclaimer about temperature, humidity, time of year, things like that. So just in general, what can we expect to get that trailer down to temp?
Yeah, and that's one of the toughest things in the world that we can. There's no set number on how long it's going to take. Like I alluded to on drying one out, humidity level, what the outside temp is. Obviously, if you're, several of you have probably been out. If not, you will be. We've got an ice cream plant in Henderson, Nevada. This time of year, middle of the desert, there's times I can look at the ambient air temperature sensor on the front of the unit, that tells me what it is, and you can see 140, 150 degrees. Okay. That's added heat that is from the asphalt, the heat that's coming from your truck. Your APU sets in there between the truck and the trailer as well. So all that heat likes to rise up, and that's what the reefer unit's pulling through. It's through the condenser. So yeah, it makes a big difference. That is a huge deal. So how long it's going to take can be upwards. I've seen them out there take 24 hours. So, just be prepared when you're going in. If you know you're going out there, start it, let it run while you're going down the highway. Moving down the highway is better than sitting still.
All right, perfect. Danny, is there anything you want to add to that, from your perspective on the sales side?
Well, there's a lot of places out there that, they have their requirements on when they're going to actually start loading you. So the pre-cooling is critical. If you get to this Henderson ice cream plant, they're not going to load you till you're below -10. And so, you might also consider when you choose to do your preloading or pre-cooling, excuse me. So, if you're trying to do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's going to take longer. If you can, start it at a cooler time of day, maybe find a shady spot, anything you can do like that. The customers, they do notice it. They do complain about it sometimes. And, obviously we want to be the ones that are, not making noise in that regard.
I have a question. Who is it the driver's responsibility to pre-cool that trailer when they go pick up a load? Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions real quick? All right. So kind of the last question I have, and then hopefully we get some good questions and feedback from the terminals here. But when I'm cooling down a trailer, should I use the setting and the reefer temp that my load that I'm dispatched on calls for, or is there a better setting in reefer temp to get it to cool down quicker?
I personally would just pick the OptiSet file for that load that you're picking up.
Okay.
So it's going to maintain that temperature.
So the technology will recognize it needs to be here, it's not here, and it's going to work to do whatever it takes to get
Right.
it there,
The engine's
correct?
going to go to low speed if it needs low speed, or if it needs to cool it quicker, it's going to go into high speed.
Okay, perfect. A lot of good information here. So surely we got a question back here. Hopefully there's a few more for these folks while we got them up here.
I just have a quick question about the dropping hooks that I've noticed that in the group I belong to on Facebook and stuff, but everybody's having the same issue. And I was wondering if there's any plans in the future to solve this issue. Is you'll get a time like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. dropping hook. And everybody knows at 11 p.m. that's the dead drop zone. But then you get there, let's say you get there at 11 a.m. and you're there until 11 p.m. And then the next morning you're still not loaded, or they still don't have the dropping hook loaded. And you got to wait 3 hours sometimes before you start getting detention. I feel like detention should start from the moment that drop dead zone is there, because that's why it's a dropping hook. That's why some drivers might, especially these drivers, might take a dropping hook because they're expecting it to be ready when the dropping hook dead time is done.
That kind of depends on your customer. With a lot of our meat customers, we have, the drop dead time is when their detention policy begins. If you're going to somewhere that's not a meat shipper, like say it's a produce load or a dry shipper, the way that the rules work with most of our customers that are not the protein guys is your arrival time. If you're in there within that window, that's when your clock starts. So it's just a little customer specific. But yeah, if it's, the expectation that, I know they go over it in the live dispatch on a meat load is, it should be ready at the end of your pickup window, and you should be ready with a full clock at that time.
Yeah, you always have to anticipate that load being ready at the end of the window and plan around that.
Okay.
How about some questions up in Pittston or Salt Lake?
Well, I don't have a question, but I certainly have a comment about this, the trailers. As far as pre-trips are concerned, we need to make sure that we're doing proper pre-trips on these trailers, and as far as hitting that pre-trip button on the Reefer, and then walk around and do the rest of your inspection. And by the time you're done, you should have a good idea of making sure that the pre-trip is done on the Reefer part. Then on the inside, make sure that your chute is up, and make sure that there's nothing that's covering the inlet on the return side on the front of the Reefer. There's no cardboard down there, no plastic in the holes down there, and make sure that your drain holes are not plugged. So you never want to open that back door and get a bath.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more here for the Reefer folks. So let's say we're not in Nevada in August. If we've got a meat load or a 34-degree load in California, let's say it's 80 degrees outside. About how long is that going to take maybe to cool that trailer down to say 34 degrees, 36 degrees?
Well, hopefully they should, if everything's closed up, because you always need to have the rear doors closed on the trailer. And Rick kind of alluded to plugging drain holes or not plugging drain holes. Defrost tubes we don't want plugged. The trailer drain holes you do want plugged, especially if it's hot. If there's no kazoos on, if you look underneath the trailer, you can actually see the rubber pieces that come down off those, and they flatten themselves out. That allows water to drain out of the inside of that trailer, but it doesn't let air go back up inside there. So if those kazoos are missing, especially on frozen loads, you can use wet paper towels. If you get paper towels wet, stuff them down in there, they'll actually freeze in there as that trailer gets colder, aluminum floors. So always you want to keep that airflow inside the box, but it should, in reality, the trailer should take about anywhere from about 1 to 3 hours to pull down the temp. They truly should. So.
All right, perfect. So Thank you guys very much. If anybody can stick around, if somebody does have a question, we would appreciate it. But thank you for being here this morning. Let's give these guys a big round of applause this morning. All right. So a couple things here we're going to go over real quick. We do every week, just a couple of housekeeping items. You know, one, we've got the Prime mobile app. We rely very heavily on that. And your fleet managers, the safety department, we can kind of fumble our way through it a little bit. But while you're here on the terminal, if you have a question, Richard and Brianne are the experts. They can answer any question that you have on the Prime app. So please take advantage of that if you have anything right now. Future topics. If there's any future topic that you'd like to hear, the Friday morning safety meeting, please reach out to the safety department. You can Qualcomm us directly. You can email us, stop up here, talk to us, stop by if you're here in the terminal. If you're in one of the other terminals, we appreciate and really want to hear those topics that you guys want to hear. So you want to talk about these shirts we got on?
Yeah, we got some nice shirts. They just come out down in the company store. Red Friday, red meaning remember everyone deployed. So we always like to remember our veterans, and especially those that are actively serving overseas, protecting our great nation. And in regards to that, if you've served in the military, a prior military experience, if you could please stand and be recognized, love to give you a round of applause. All right, should we bring up closing?
Let's
the closers. Let's do it, man. So next we got Steve Woodkey, our Vice President of Sales. So good morning, Steve.
Thank you. I'd like to thank those participants in the panel. We've got some great fleet managers, and my suggestion is, as an operator, you get to know your fleet manager very well. You really have to be connected with him. He needs to understand what your needs are, and you need to understand what his expectation is. So please keep that in mind. We had asked you, don't be a victim. You've heard a lot about safety out at truck stops and walking through trailers, that type of a situation. Don't put yourself in a bad place. Please protect yourself at all times. You know, safety is our highest calling. That'll never change. And we're here to help protect you. So thank you very much for what you do. I am in sales. Sales is a little bit tough right now. Got some headwinds, but we're making progress every day, fighting and scrapping for every load we have. The one thing that we have that others don't, the competition doesn't have, is service. And the service you give us is incredibly good. It allows us to move rates when others can't move rates. They appreciate it. Our customers really need you to pick up and deliver on time. It makes a terrific difference in their ability to get a product on the shelf and stay stocked up. So please recognize safety is our highest calling, service is next. Don't ever compromise service for safety. We don't expect you to do that. If you get in a situation, you need to get safe, let your fleet manager know what you can do, and we'll work from there. It's supremely important. As I was saying, business is a little bit tough. We're asking you to move deadheads. We're asking you to run to protein shippers, perhaps some pretty long deadheads. Our strategy is very simple. If we don't have a product or a load where you are, we're going to move you to the next load, the next best thing we can possibly do. Sometimes there might be something coming up in that area. Maybe we'll ask you to lay over. But really, we're into moving equipment as quickly as we can. That's the value, I will tell you, aside from service with teams, being able to run team, and we ask you to deadhead 400 miles. Once you get there as a team, you can turn around, drop, and hook, and keep running. A solo, obviously, it's got to take a break on that deadhead. So besides giving us terrific service as a team, it really helps us with the velocity of turn of loads. So please keep that in mind. Like I say, our salespeople are out fighting and scrapping for everything we can get. We're seeing some of the freight that was tendered and offered at low price is coming back now because the low price is not covering that business. So we're getting a lot of those lanes back. We got a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. It's a tough time. We'll get through it together. We've been here before. We have a very, very strong strategy that is working. We're watching it every day, and we're bringing on some new business as well. So we appreciate all you do. Take care of yourself. Be safe. I'd like to bring up the guy that started our company in 1970, Robert Lowe, who's fought the same battle you all have over the years. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Yeah, you know, we've no, hey, I haven't said. Oh, okay. I haven't said anything good yet. I haven't said anything bad yet. No, I appreciate you folks. You know, we've been doing this a long time. So those that have questions, I just ask you to say, it's raining out there. I just noticed. This place probably wasn't built with smoke and mirrors, you know, it really wasn't. We made a lot of decisions, a few bad ones probably, but mostly good ones over the years. We've seen these cycles before. This ain't our first rodeo, folks. We've seen these cycles. Now this one's been tough. Let me tell you just a little bit about what we've done. It's working. What we have done is said, you know, our drivers' earnings are our top priority. Safety and all that kind of service and all that kind of stuff, but really protecting our drivers' earnings are our top priority. You know, if you have 430, I think, fewer trucks to load than we had at our peak, that leaves more freight for those remaining. We haven't added trucks. We have deleted trucks. We've taken the fleet size down to keep the freight network as rich as possible. And it's worked. It's evidenced by, you know, our drivers' earnings have stayed right in there. Maybe not quite as good as they were, but they're not bad. They're pretty darn good. I don't like losing 430 trucks. I don't like it. We're a growth company. We'll grow again. But this was the right strategy to protect our drivers and their earnings during this downturn. We think we're kind of at the bottom now, so we'll start shifting. We'll have a different strategy when we get into a growth mode. But this has been our strategy. It has worked. The proof is in our earnings. I appreciate you all bearing with us and keeping the faith, because you all, with the service and sacrifices you make, you know, you all make it happen. So we wouldn't be anything without you all. So thank you very much for what you do. We're going the right direction. Hang in there. Be safe. God bless each of you.